And for my technician, what that's going to look like, we'll just bounce really quickly back to this Home tab. I'm going to go back to the Workspaces. What you'll see at the very bottom is where I have the widget, and there again, I've put some of the reports from Service Analytics on this particular console. So very granular, very customizable with how you want your end-user experience to be. Your technicians can customize their own view as well, bring down the reports if they want to see that as a part of their experience when they log into the console. Okay, so let's go into the reports. So we've talked about the end-user console. That's going to be how your end users interface, enter tickets, submit tickets, so that you can begin the resolution. If you want to expose to them the service catalog, if that's something that you've already built, you want to expose it, you can do that. If you've built up knowledge management, that too is something that you can expose to them. Quick incidents or those incident templates is going to be a quick way for them to enter and not have to key in a lot of data. They can utilize those templates. So if it's something, we'll say 6 times out of 10 when someone calls the help desk, it's about a particular issue, you could turn that into a template, and all they have to do is select it, and it's on its way. From your technician perspective, you can customize their view as well, show them the templates, expose to them the reports that are relevant for them to do their resolutions, expose to them sites that they're using to resolve the tickets, all from this one interface. So it makes it very nimble for them. Okay, so now if we start to look at some of the reporting aspect, I'm going to hit this Service Analytics at the very top. It's basically throwing me into my reports. And from there, you'll have several hives, that ticket management, service portfolio, a custom report, cross item. You recall I had multiple items in my workspace, so that cross item would look across all of those. Time tracking, and then, of course, the dashboard. So it'll let you decide what you want to put on your executive dashboard. I'm going to pull up the one with this cross items, and it's the one that I have open in this separate tab. But what you'll see, if we were to walk through this from scratch, it would basically be asking me for everything that's in red. So I've told it it's a cross item. I've told it what types or items I want it to look at. I've given my report a title. I'm saying it's visible. Its visibility is I'm sharing it, so it's not a private report. And I'm saying this data can be pulled, yes, in the dashboard, but as well in Service Core. Under my configuration items, so here's where you'll see all of the searches that have been created and that are apparent inside of Service Core. If, let's say, this report is something that's grabbing on data that's not in one of the save searches, you can just quickly do your new save search. Here on the right are the fields that I want to display in my report. So I'm opting for priority, description, and then the status. I've opted for a chart. So as I scroll to the bottom, we'll see that exposed. And then here, of course, are just the rows and columns or a table for that data. We can export that if you deem that necessary. Let's say someone who's not going to have access to Service Core, but you want them to see this data, export it and send it off to them. And then finally, my chart. So I can see quickly, I've got 74 service request items, 73 incidents, 20 change requests, and 5 facilities requests that have come in. And I think my timeline might have been over the last 60 days. So, again, very granular with what you can report on in Service Core. I'll just take this up to the very top, and you'll see a few actions as well that you can take. So we saw the ability to do the export down there at the rows or at that table, but you can also auto-run or set to auto-run this report. Maybe you decide you want to send this out on a weekly basis. Here it's going into our task scheduler. It's going ahead and pulled up the specific report. It's asking me for the format, PDF versus Excel. I can scroll down or kind of hit the items here on the left to expose the recipients. I would choose who this needs to go to, and then scheduling of this task. So there again, maybe this is something that we repeat weekly on Friday at, let's say, 5 p.m. Okay, so very easy to get the data out of Service Corps as well. Okay, so I know that it's taking us up right to our 45-minute mark. Are there any questions, Valerie, that have come in?
Stacy?
Oh, sorry, Vic.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm kind of the question guy. So
yeah,
there are some questions that have come in, and the first one here is are there any estimates around the level of effort that would be required to do an upgrade from version 11 to version 12? I guess you started off and you kind of showed that analyze. What was it called? An analyzer?
The migration advisor.
The migration advisor. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What are you recommending?
There are estimates, and really what that would depend upon is how many workspaces we're going to have to bring over. So because 12 is so different from 11, we do recommend an admin training, 3 to 5 days on that. And then, again, depending upon the complexity of your workspace, let's say of your service desk that we would need to create in FPV 12, anywhere between 3 to 5 days, and again, that depends on complexity. So we'd probably have to really have a conversation and see that level of complexity to give a better estimate.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right about that. I mean, we've had some that have been able to get up and running in a short amount of time, and some that have more complex environments, like lots and lots of users or lots of different departments, and it'll take a little bit longer. Okay. Next question up here is regarding linking assets to users. Would you I think what the question is here, would you advocate linking 15,000 users to an email Microsoft Outlook application asset? Do you understand what the question is?
Yes, and I mean, you could. So that's going to depend, because that's me reading that data. So that was going to depend on the horsepower of the Service Corps server. Now, I understand why you would want to do that, because if I'm going to do a change on that email server, I want to see what users are affected. I think that's maybe where they were going with that.
Right.
So it may be the case where that data is currently federated, and we make a link to that federated data so that we can see that. But I would have to check with operations on a number of relationships that's not going to cause any performance issue to be looking at that inside of Service Corps.
Okay. All right. Is that a situation where ADDM would help?
Right, because ADDM would have that data. That would be that federated data source where I could see it, and I wouldn't necessarily have to bring it in. I'm doing the change, and then I make the link so that you can see what that relationship looks like in ADDM. But again, it depends on the number of records there.
Okay. And is ADDM, does that work with version 12 now?
It does. And so what you're able to do is, if you wanted to bring in the relationships, the data that you've discovered with ADDM, you can populate the Service Corps CMDB with that data.
Okay. Next question. We're using RightStar's ScanStar on a version 11 implementation for barcode scanning. Is that upgradable to version 12?
It is, and so the ScanStar solution does work with Service Corps 12, allowing you to, scan those assets and then bring them into the Service Corps 12 CMDB. Right.
And we're also in the I just want to throw this out, we're in the process of upgrading ScanStar so that smartphones are now supported. So you don't need a purpose-built barcode scanner anymore. We've done some pretty sophisticated workflow on your smartphone. So if you have an iPhone or an Android, you'll be able to do some pretty spiffy things using your smartphone now in order to track assets or reconcile, or maybe for a receiving application. Okay, so next question here is it possible to have a console that is specific to a select process and select group of staff? For example, an internal security group which needs its ticket information to be viewable by others using FootPrints. So that was a little bit long to say. Okay.
Yeah, but essentially what I would do is in my admin console, so I'm creating a portal and a console for that group, and it gets complex, and I'm saying complex because with the rights that I can set up on, yes, who this console is available to, but even then on the technician side, then who's able to look at the data that is coming from that console. So they're going to enter issues, and it's going to go to a specific group, then who can look at the data in that group. But, yes, you can create a console that's specific to that security team and then show them data points that are specific to what they need to see. And that's one of the nice things with that end user. Let me jump into here really quickly. Whoops. And would I switch off to my admin? Sorry about that. Let's go back to my system portal. But one of the nice things with those portals is because you can create as many as you want, but then, yes, tailor it down and be specific to a particular group.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I don't see any other questions, so I certainly wanted to say, Stacy, thank you very much. Terrific job. I hope that those of you that were attending were able to get something out of this. I should also say that if you're considering moving to version 12, now would be a good time to do that because if you had decided to do that a year ago, you would have been among the first. And the nice thing is that, as they say, all the pioneers are the ones that have all the bows and arrows, all the arrows through them. So you won't have to worry about that as much. You should have a very good experience. And as you can see, if you're familiar with version 11, FootPrints version 12 looks a lot different. In fact, it's a complete rewrite.